I am putting together a reboxing video or an organization video for Cloudspire. We're going to start by looking at the chips and how they come and how to reorganize them for maximum use during gameplay. So there are two chip trays that can basically stay pretty much as they are. Your health chip tray, you're just going to have out on your table for gameplay. If you have the premium health, you replace it, place the regular health with the premium health, and that is done. The next tray to look at is the upgrade chips. This comes with a few extra things in it out of the box, and if you do not have the Grige expansion, you will need to leave some extra things in this and then take them out for gameplay. You will need to have your target chips for your factions in here, and also your Fortress Health and Source upgrade chips. But if you do have an extra tray because you have the Grige expansion, take these out and just have a tray just for your upgrade chips, so you can just bring this out onto the table for gameplay. Next, you will have this tray that has your landmark chips, the white bordered ones here, and your market chips that are the black bordered ones here. It also has the Aurora faction chips, your Fortress Health Gate trackers, and the target chips for the Brahmin, the Grove Tenders, and the Aurora. Again, if you have the Grige, you can set these aside and all of the Aurora chips aside, because it makes more sense to have your faction chips together in the same trays. So we can set these aside for later use. We'll also put the Fortress Health Gate chips in a different tray and keep this solely for landmark chips and markets chips. If you have the Portal Seekers expansion, you can add those then in the center row, and I keep them separate until I really feel like I want to integrate Portal Seekers. The way you can tell the difference if you get them mixed up is you'll see that in the lower right hand corner there's this little icon right there. This is the Portal Seekers, and that is also showing up on the landmark tokens for the Portal Seekers expansion. So this is how I have this tray, which is really only needed for setup and a little bit on if you have to get the ancient Traxxer out or something like that. Okay, so if we have Grige, this is what comes in the Grige. We have their faction chips, we have an extra Fortress Health and Source style, and we have their dice, which we can set aside. So what I'd like to do for the factions is set aside that target chip, is put all of the minions for a specific faction in a row of the tray. And we'll do a little bit of a tour of what the various faction minions, heroes, and spires are for organization purposes. All right, so we'll start with the Grige. And just to point out the difference between the borders, these gold bordered chips are your heroes, the brown or bronze bordered chips are your minions, and the gray bordered chips are your spires. The Grige also have these chips that have no borders, which have special powers that I don't know about yet because I haven't explored the Grige. So to come on that, but we'll keep them with the spires because they appear to be instead of some spire designs. So what I usually do is I will put the heroes in the front of the row, followed by the minions, and if I'm going to be super organized, I'm going to put those in order of CP cost. So 2 cost, 3 cost for the Skitter, 3 cost for the Burrowers, 4 cost for the Gekweb, and 6 for the Damp Skitter, and then we have 6 for Mugwump. And then I will put the spires and the special chips, or the rest of the spires in the case of most factions. So for the Aurora minions, I'm going to start with my heroes, and then I'm going to put in the Burnout and Drift minions that are on the opposite sides of each other, Arcbright and Arclight, Medium and Conduit, my Bishop, which is on the back side of the Evangelist, my Nitrous and Lightress minions, and finally my Messiah/Void minion. And then I will have my portal spires, which are on the back of the monolith spires, and 4 of the refractor spires, which are on the back of the aspect spires. Then for Brahmin, I'm going to put in my heroes, my Battleborn, my Dispatch, my Aegis, my Architects, and my Source Siege. Oh, and also, of course, don't forget the Forsaken. Then I have my drilling outposts, which are the opposite side of the lance launchers, and the dispatch platforms that upgrade into siege towers. So that will make one tray of faction chips. And then the other tray of faction chips that I took the, I think the Brahmin out of there, and I'm going to split into putting them on the sides because my Grove Tender chips are a little tight to actually have them all in one row. So I want to put a few of them out separately, but first I'm going to organize them. Okay, so for the Grove Tenders, I have my heroes, I have my all-important taproots, I have my Warbriars, I have my Treed, my Vine Heralds, my Ogre Growth, and my Grizzled Oak. And then I have my Retall Spires on the backside of the Muskeg. And I have my Shrubberies on the backside of my Creeping Vines. And I'm going to put, I'll put a couple of them over there, and I'll put the other ones in the middle. And then in the middle of this, I'm going to gather up all of my target chips for the various factions. So there are 5 of them, and I put them in there. And then I'm going to put 5 chips, because I have the Grige, for Fortress Health, and my 5 source tracking dials in there as well. So those 2 trays then become everything you're going to need to set up your factions for play. So I just realized that I never went through the heirs faction, so I'm going to go back and do that, and apologies for the shifting lighting as my natural light is going away. So for the heirs, I'm going to put my heroes in the front, and my Elfin Kazi, and then I have my Harriers, my Joust, my Hummingers, my Windrush, and finally my Royal Talon. And then I will have my Refuge Spires, which are on the backside of the Minaret Spires, and the High-Rise Spires, which back up to the Regal Lookout Spires. And that is all of the factions. Your dice tray will come with everything you need for the various faction dice, your 6-sided die, and your attack dice. The only thing you will need to do is add your Grige dice, if you have the Grige, and then that is ready to be put into your box. So your barracks trays, if you got the first printing, you will have gotten some barracks trays in your box, and you will also have some barracks trays inside the packing box. So how do you tell the difference, and which one do you keep? It's easy enough to give it a test. So here we have side by side of the 2 ones. One of them is going to do that. When you put a hero into the front spot here, it's not going to nest very well. The other one nests perfectly, so keep these barracks. These can be discarded. Also, if you got the first printing, you will see that you have 2 Nerora sheets. The one that you want to keep, if you look on the backhand side, you'll see that matter distortion is here on the upper right of the column. That is the good one. The one that is incorrect has matter distortion down here on the lower left. So this one can be tossed. So let's look at the hex group and fortress tiles. This is the base game. It has 8 of the hex groups, and then for the 4 base faction fortresses. If you have the Grige, that will come with the Grige fortress, which you can tell because it's got a lot of burrowing kind of things on it. And if you get Portal Seekers, you will have this Autumn Forest hex group and this Winter hex group. It looks like snow to me, so I think of it as the winter one. These all fit into here, but it's somewhat tricky. But if you put your fortresses in here and use the places where the dials go to kind of wiggle them into place and just push down around the edges, they do all fit in there quite nicely. And then the hex groups, I keep my Portal Seekers ones on the bottom and just sort of get them down into the corners and put the other ones on the top. And you just have to wiggle them a little bit until they lie flat. But they do, I promise. It just takes a little bit of wiggling. And then the lid goes on the top. The small hex groups go in this small box, and if you have Portal Seekers, you will get this all clouds all the time hex group. You will get this, again, Autumn Forest hex group, and this one that looks like something horrible happened in that corner. I don't know, but those are the 3 that come with Portal Seekers. For cards, you will have your relic cards. You will have your event cards. If you have Portal Seekers, you will have additional event cards and relic cards. And then you have your lovely box, and they all fit into here for storage. I just pile them all up together. I haven't, again, opened relic Portal Seekers yet. So that is still in shrink. And they all fit in here with a little bit of maneuvering behind my iPad. And then you have this lovely divider thing I have kept to keep the box in, and this lovely inviting, oh my goodness, someday we'll get an expansion space. Very exciting. So I've kept that in there just for storage in the box. And this is how I put it all in the box. First of all, I admire the artwork. Then I start by putting my chip trays down at the bottom. I put 3. I don't really care which ones I put where. Across this way. I put 2 across this way. And that makes a nice platform for the hex group box, which just sits right on top here. Sorry about the glare. Then my fortress upgrade pegs go into that little corner very nicely. My small earth-shaping hex groups go in here. My cards in their original foam packaging go in there. My barracks, move this just a little bit to see the top side. I slide the barracks in up there. And then the dice go into the remaining space right here. And the top is plenty of space to hold all of the books. So I have all of my faction reference sheets and the minion landmark reference sheets. I have the rule book, the solo scenarios, and the co-op scenarios, which I just put the opposite direction so the ring things are on either side, lies a little flatter. If you have the Grige solo scenario, and I just have left the reference sheets inside there. And even if you have the art book, it still fits in, and the box lid will come flat.